Hello. It's time for a little bit more social studies. I hope you liked the reading from yesterday. We're moving on to more exploring of California. We'll start off with the timeline here. 1769, so we've moved to, this timeline is over here. And Father Junipero Serra starts the first mission in Alta, California. Do we remember what this word Alta means? This is the upper part, the northern part of California. That's where we live. 1770, Serra sets up a mission near Monterey Bay, very close to us. And 1775 to 1776, Juan Bautista de Anza leads settlers overland to Alta, California. Now, this is a very complicated time in history, so I want you to know that we are going to do 2 more readings, I believe, in this textbook, and then we're going to read some different sources. So you can learn that there are very different perspectives on this time of history, and I don't want us to just be reading from the textbook. And I will be organizing some conversations around this time in history over WhatsApp and FaceTime. So Newcomers to Alta, California is the name of this time. Now, I am not going to we're not going to read this geography section, but if you would like to pause the video and read it by yourself, you can, because this is actually 5th grade history, and we'll be studying that next year. But this is a very interesting part of the world. If you look at the map closely, you can see there's Alaska. This is the United States and Canada, so North America. And there's Alaska in red. And the other red, so that's right here, that's Russia. And we've talked about this part of the world because this is how we believe the first peoples came to the Americas. This used to be a land bridge. Do you remember we talked about that? The Bering Strait. And the first peoples, they walked to America from here. But the early explorers thought that maybe there would be something called the Northern Passage, a way for boats to get here to the Americas through this land, now it's not a land bridge, through the waterway here. To get to the Americas. So they were always looking, of course, they didn't know they were going to the Americas. They were looking for a faster way to get to where? They wanted to go to Asia. Okay, so settling in California. More than 150 years after Vizcaíno sailed into Monterey Bay, Spain, decided to start a colony in Alta, California. A colony is a settlement that is ruled by a faraway government. The decision to start a colony in Alta, California came about in the mid-1700s. Russian explorers and fur traders had arrived in what is now Alaska. King Carlos III feared that the Russians might move south along the coast and into Alta, California. Spanish leaders hoped that a colony in Alta, California would be successful. Spain had already started colonies in what would become Florida, Texas, and New Mexico by building missions or religious settlements. The missions had strengthened Spain's hold on New Spain and Latin America. The king hoped to follow the same plan in Alta, California. Missions were run by missionaries. A missionary is a person who teaches a religion to others. In California, Catholic priests and other church workers served as missionaries. They tried to convert Indians to the Catholic religion. missionaries also wanted to teach Indians the Spanish language and Spanish ways of life. Now, we have discussed that this word Indian is a complicated one. Some people use the word Native peoples, Native Californians, Native Americans, or Indigenous peoples. Down here, the question is, why did Spain decide to start a colony in Alta California? So why did Spain decide to start a colony? I think if we go back to this section here, you might be able to find that answer. Okay? The Spanish return. To settle the areas around San Diego Bay and Monterey Bay, José de Galvez, an official in New Spain, planned 4 expeditions. These trips, taken for the purpose of exploring, would travel from Mexico to Alta California by land and by sea. The journey by sea was hard. Because of wind patterns and ocean currents, the groups who traveled by sea had trouble staying on course. The groups who took the land route also faced hardships. Gaspar de Portolo led one group overland. Portolo's group included soldiers, Indians, and a priest named Junipero Serra. Fernando Rivera y Moncada led the other group. With him was a priest named Juan Crespi. Mountains and fierce heat made the overland journey to Alta California difficult. Crespi wrote that the land lacked grass and water and abounded had a lot of stones and thorns. So when there's a little star here, it means there's more information at the bottom. And it says, Father Crespi from the California Missions, a pictorial history. So this is a quotation, a direct quotation from his writing. But let's take a look at this map and this picture first. This drawing of their ship, or galleon, as we learned yesterday. That's how they call the ships. And the San Carlos, that's the name of this ship, below was one of the ships sent from Mexico to Alta California by José de Galvez. It took 110 days to reach San Diego Bay. So let's go back to this map. I mean, what I think is so cool about this history for my students who are Mexican American is that California was conquered from Mexico. So Mexico, we now know, has been taken over by the Spanish, which devastated the native peoples that lived, the native Mexicans who lived there, and changed their way of life. And then afterwards, these people moved from Mexico to California. So like I said yesterday, Baja California is actually Mexico today. And this journey from Baja to San Diego Bay, so from here to here, took 110 days on a boat. I mean, think about our situation right now. We have been home almost 2 weeks now. That's 14 days. Can you imagine how many days would it be then if you were in the boat at that time? 30, 60, 90, that's already 3 months. Plus another 20 days, that's almost 4 months on the boat to go from Baja California to San Diego Bay. So in this little map here, you can see what we are talking about, what part of the world we are talking about, this part of Mexico and into California. I love history, guys. I hope you like this too. Well, find it interesting. So there he is, Junipero Serra. We will learn a lot about him later. I'm sure you have heard this name, Junipero Serra, before. Many streets are named after him in Oakland and in California, many churches. He is a complicated figure, this man. Father Serra started Mission San Diego de Alcala on July 16, 1769. The bells in the tower inset are rung together on the birthday of the mission. So this is the mission. It is still there. All of these missions in California, they are still available for you to see if you would like to go. And we're going to have some exploring of websites about the missions. By July 1, 1769, the groups had reached San Diego Bay. Only half of the people who had begun the trip survived, and many were sick and hungry. Soon after, Portola and some of the crew set out on land to find Monterey Bay. Father Serra and many others stayed in San Diego. Portola traveled north, looking for the bay that Vizcaíno had described. Do we remember what bay it was? The Monterey Bay, he said, was perfect. Because Monterey Bay is long and gently curving, he passed by it without stopping. He went as far as San Francisco Bay before returning to San Diego in January 1770. Portola, tried a second time and finally found Monterey Bay on May 24th. While Portola looked for Monterey Bay, Father Serra began the first mission in Alta, California, called San Diego del Alcala. In 1770, Father Serra began Mission San Carlos Borromeo at Monterey. In 1771, the mission was moved 5 miles away to the Carmel Valley. Father Serra made his headquarters at Monterey and stayed in California for 16 years. Before his death in 1784, he had started 9 missions. So missions, I've mentioned many times, it's complicated, and we will study them more. So what caused the overland journey to Alta, California to be difficult? So what is so difficult about this journey here? And I would like you to look carefully on this page for the answer to this. Let's see. I think actually we need to show you this page to help you out. So you could pause your video here for this paragraph. And also it continues over here. Okay, be careful, the question is about over land, not over ocean. One more page over here. A new overland route. In 1774, Spain sent Juan Bautista de Anza to find a new land route to Alta, California. He traveled across northern Mexico to reach Monterey. The next year, Anza led a group of 240 settlers to California. The group took hundreds of cattle, mules, and horses along. Just pause here. Can you make an inference? I'm putting my finger to my head and making a guess symbol. Can you make an inference as to why they might have brought all those animals with them this time? What does that mean? Anza's route took them through the Sonoran Desert and over the San Jacinto Mountains. The group reached Monterey in March 1776. Because of the desert and mountains, Anza's route proved to be no easier than the others. Land travel to Alta, California remained very difficult. As a result, most supplies were still sent by sea. So I do want to remind you of yesterday's question, which was, why do people think that California is an island?